for it on YouTube.
I just got a notification, so I think.
Okay, let's see. For it on YouTube.
Check.
I just got a notification,
Yeah,
so I think.
we're good. Okay.
Hey everybody, it's Rob. We're just about to get started with this week's episode. Less than 10 minutes left. While you got a couple of minutes here, why don't you go check out otheanthem.com. It's where you can find everything Oh the Anthem, including the merch store, the podcast, and all of the videos. Open up a new tab.
Anchor.fm/Oh the Anthem is the place where you can get direct links to all the podcatchers you use to listen to our show every week.
Did you know we record every episode live on Facebook? Of course you do. But make sure that you're liking the page and turning on notifications so you get notified when we go live.
We make a ton of video content between the podcast, the short films, Heretics. YouTube.com/Oh the Anthem is the place for it all.
And of course you can find me on any social network at Robert N. Cheek.
And me at LegendCB5.
And you can find the podcast at Oh the Anthem on all your social networks.
Now is your opportunity to join the greats, to be amongst the best presidents who ever lived, and I would build that part up.
Okay.
And I would be like, do you understand that if these fires go out, you're going to be remembered forever for that? Lincoln freed the slaves. You put out the fires. And I would just build on his ego and his oh, I need to do this and everything like that. Like the sniveling, people snivel to him all the time. People used to walk up to him on the street. I'm sure.
Yeah.
He's just leaving the plaza. It's 1982. Whatever the case is. He's walking. Oh my God, Mr. Trump. Oh, I can't believe I don't have my autograph book with me here at this moment. I can't believe you're here. I'll tell them about it later. They'll never believe you. Whatever. He moves on doing jerk things. But if somebody came to him and it was just well, the only person who could pull off an economic comeback of this type is Donald Trump. Then he would just be like, yeah, I've been working on it. He'd want to take credit for that shit. He's not smart. He's not
Earlier,
I could give you a detailed analysis of how to get what you want from a smart version of Trump. But that takes a lot more craft work and it takes a lot more setting the scene and stuff like that. I feel confident that if I was Newsom put in that moment,
yeah,
I could handle that thing better than he did. Because it was too much oh, please, please, Mr. Trump, we need you. It's your problem, but we need you. And I'm not going to talk about climate change because I know you don't want to fucking hear it.
Earlier this episode,
yeah,
we said we figured out how to manipulate the president to do what we want.
Yeah.
Do you not think that Gavin Newsom has paid a lot of people a lot of money to figure out how to present the argument?
No, because yes. So yes, he has. He has those people. I'm sure they're smart. I also think that alarming number of them are pussies who just do whatever Newsom tells them to do. He's put people in place to be not yes men, but the ones who help make the decisions that he makes the reality. Those people will argue a little bit, but will eventually go well, the governor said it. He's made a decision. We just got to live with it. You know.
Okay.
I feel I don't know. I feel Newsom for to help him being sewn into his perfectly crafted suits had his balls removed as part of the speeding up process because he doesn't what the fuck does he
Batman and Batgirl in the darkness of night. Batman, I need you now more than I've ever needed you before. I'm lost and I don't know what to do. Everything is just so cruel. I don't know how I can continue on like this. I'm losing faith. What kind of just world would befall this on me? If you're out there, give me a sign.
What is it?
Batman?
Yes.
Hold on. Like the real Batman?
One must not worship false idols. You either die the hero or live to become the villain.
Should I treat this like confessional then?
If you want the proper justice.
Well, a couple things have happened the last couple of days. Should I start from the end? I took the hero's name in vain.
What did you say?
Dick Tap Dancing Grayson.
Why?
Well, I was really angry and upset and vengeful. I didn't really mean to say it.
What was the context?
I was in the alley and some guy robbed and murdered my parents, so I just let it out. Dick Tap Dancing Grayson, why did you have to kill my parents?
I can relate.
Also, I had premarital sex. Several times.
How long has it been?
Last night.
Since your last confession?
Oh, I don't know. Something like 03.
More than a decade?
Well, I'm sorry. I've been really busy and Sunday football is on.
This doesn't help your penance.
Church is boring. I hate getting dressed up, and honestly, it's my only day to sleep in.
Do you smoke or do illicit drugs?
Do you?
No!
Then of course I don't. Why would I?
Why did you pray for me today?
Because, I don't know. I'm worried about the fate of our fair city. I'm worried people will lose like I've lost. I want to be the watchful eye and doer of good. But would you believe I'm scared of dying and going to Arkham with the Joker?
President Obama has nominated Merrick Garland, Chief Judge of the Federal Court of Appeals in D.C., to the Supreme Court.
And that court is basically like one of those stepping stone courts. Like it's like the one.
It is the farm team.
Yeah.
It is AAA ball, getting ready to go play in the bigs. Buck Showalter, our beloved Buck Showalter, would say that it's the extended roster for the Supreme Court.
It's the 40-man.
It's the extended 40-man roster. So we use it just the same way. But so we have a nominee in an election year, and now we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But it's likely that that unfortunately for Judge Garland, he will probably not see the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I have to imagine that he was picked as a let's see how crazy they are kind of pick.
Yes.
Especially with the quote from Orrin Hatch, which is just like anybody who disagrees with this nomination for when he was going to the Court of Appeals there.
Right. They nominated again in 97, and he passed with flying colors as far as it's concerned.
As far as the nomination goes, yeah.
I think he got high 70s. And Orrin Hatch, a Republican senator, was quoted as saying about him now that Obama could easily name Merrick Garland, who is a fine man. This week on the Oh, the Anthem podcast, well, of course, we're talking about debate reaction. We delayed the show for that. I have a lot of thoughts. I'm sure Corey does as well. If I wanted to see two old men fight, I'd just go home for Thanksgiving. More Trump news. Of course, the New York Times broke his tax story. We got a lot to say about that. He nominates Amy Coney Barrett for the Supreme Court, and, Hulu did a show about this. He also says he may not leave the White House. Okay, Trump. Finally, we're going to talk about Breonna Taylor and the case out of Kentucky. A lot of stuff is happening in that case. Only charges were actually gone. Was there any justice? We'll discuss. All that and more is coming up on this episode of the The Anthem podcast.
I guess if you want to call that a debate, this is Corey, and this is the Anthem podcast.
Good evening, everybody. This is Rob. Welcome to episode 378. Nope, that's not right. We're somewhere there. Of the other, maybe it is 378. I numbered
338.
338? No, it's got to be more than that. Of the Other podcast, coming to you from all over Los Angeles because, yeah, we'll get into that. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for listening on your podcatcher of choice, The Anthem, all the usual places. So yes, we delayed the recording of this podcast so that we could talk about the debate right after it happened because we knew that it would not it would suddenly become everything people were talking about, and boy, were we correct on that.
I mean, we also did it because we wanted to have this amazing audio that we have going for today. So there's also that.
This incredible setup.
Yeah. Do you not want to address the elephant in the two rooms there, Corey? Why are we doing this remote?
Basically, there has been some disagreements on who is acceptable and to be hanging out with during COVID eras, and
the pandemic isn't over just because you're over it. The pandemic isn't over just because you're over it. This is a really good singing mic. Oh, wait. Yeah, I do sing songs in this. Yeah, so we may be remote for the next few weeks as people decide that they don't give a shit about everybody's health. But anyway, moving on to the topic of the week, it's the debate.
Yes, indeed. So,
I'll keep you out of trouble. Go ahead, Corey.
This is you keeping me out of trouble?
Close enough.
So, yes, Donald Trump and Joe Biden met for their first debate tonight, and honest to God, most of my reaction to this was like, Trump was like Facebook come to life. And Joe Biden was me, like, getting into the comment section and then quickly realizing that no matter what I say, there's going to be some sort of ridiculous story as to why I'm wrong that I've never heard of, even though I'm very well connected to the news. Trump was just Facebook id, like, out in the open tonight.
All id. Just all id. Yeah, and I said it in the drop there for those of you who are hanging out. But it basically, if I want to see two old guys argue, I'll just go home for Thanksgiving. Like there was very little about that was truly a debate. Because Trump would make a point, Biden would just come back at it and say, "Here's why you're wrong about it," and then Trump would be like, "Yeah, that's why your son's a sucker." And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's one way of doing this.
Not only that, but there's no realistic way to imagine that Chris Wallace was going to have any kind of say as to how this debate was going to happen, because Trump just steamrolled everybody the entire time, just throwing out lines to appease people who are already going to be voting for him. I'm just completely I don't even know what to say about that. That was one of the I've watched pretty much every single debate since I was aware of them, and this one was. It makes me disappointed as like an American. Like I feel like these two people can't even have a rational discourse without screaming at each other. And I mean, Joe held it in for the most part. He threw in a couple things that I don't think he was planning on saying, like, you're the worst president in American history. Like, that wasn't probably something he was just like, I can't wait to throw out this great line.
No, it just came out.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I remember somebody in Trump debate team was saying, well, well, we don't really practice because what the president does is like jazz. Like he just figures it out when he's out there. And you can tell that Joe Biden spent a lot of time like going over the numbers and stuff like that. But there's no real defense for what Trump was doing. And your hope is that people who are undecided, I don't know who could possibly be undecided at this moment, but for the people who are undecided, they look at this and say, the president is unhinged. Like he just can't even like, he can't even follow like proper decorum. And, you know, like, I think Wallace was overwhelmingly fair to Trump throughout the course of this whole thing. And Trump was taking every opportunity to pick on him. And like, it's just because he never gets real questions. He never has to like sit down with a reporter and, you know, like the reporter has to worry about Trump walking out if they ask a question too tough, you know, like. Well, so what's in it for them?
That was the kind of the lead up. If anyone paid any attention to what happened before the debate, the news reporting before the debate, everyone was saying that like first term presidents do really poorly in the debates leading into their second term because they spent 4 years basically being able to be like, nope, and just I'm going to walk out if I don't like it. Or I don't feel like talking to the press today. Can you go out and talk to them? Caitlin McElhenny or whatever her name is. And I mean, Obama did that. And I was taken aback to Obama's 2012 first debate where I remember watching that and being like, man, this dude is going to beat him. How did this happen? Where did we come from that what is his name?
Romney.
That Romney is going to outperform the great
profile
debater.
and courage, Mitt Romney.
Yeah. How he's gonna outperform the great debater Obama. But then like he came out of the second debate and nailed it. The problem is I don't know that Trump has that kind of recovery. He's gonna watch this and get so angry that it's gonna just the id part of it is just gonna be exasperated for the next one. It's gonna be like, all right, you know what? I got away from my game plan. I just have to shout over him every time he tries to talk. That's the game plan. Let's go for it.
I'm just really worried that he is like he's going to get the blanket support of all the people who like him because he said enough raw meat to drive all these people crazy. But like you know, repeatedly over and over again, Biden was going, you don't have a plan. You don't have a plan. And to any reasonable person who is watching this, it's clear that he doesn't have a plan. He's literally just making it up as he goes along. And like anytime he doesn't like something, even though it's like discernibly true, he's just like, no, that didn't happen.
Oh yeah.
You know, and the problem is that like, he said, you know, they treat the press treats you really well. They treat me really badly. It's like, you kind of get the press you deserve. Like, you know, whenever Biden does something stupid, it's covered. Like it's very well covered. He has managed to limit the number of gaffes that he's made as the campaign has gone along.
By the way, has he ever looked older than he looked tonight? Just, oh man.
I think the "what the fuck are you talking about" face looks particularly old on old people. I mean, that's kind of because all I can think about is like, it's like when you're talking to somebody with Alzheimer's, and I'm just not trying to make fun of Alzheimer's or anything like that, but sometimes there's like this vacant stare of just like, what is somebody saying to me? Like there was kind of a face like that was being made, but I'm not saying he has Alzheimer's. I'm saying it's just like the same face you make when it's like, what the fuck did somebody just say out loud? Like, this is ridiculous.
Here's a better example. Whenever I talk to my dad about why I'm a communist, he gives me that like, how are you even? How is this an argument? I went to Korea to fight communists. What's wrong with you, boy? It's the same face. It's the old white man. I cannot even comprehend what you're saying. Just in this case, it's a lot like an Alexa and a Google Home battling it out because it's just two old white guys who don't understand each other. And one of them is just certifiably saying whatever comes into his head. And I do not understand that. Like, if you do any debate prep, it's just got to be like, all right, Mr. President, what I want you to do is to learn that whatever your first impulse is, just kill that. And then give it a second and then go with whatever your second impulse is. Because today I was talking with some people at work about the debate and I was like, there's like a 0% chance it's going to be as gifable as the first debate or as the debates from 2016. Nope. Nope. 100% just as gifable with the like.
Yeah. All the faces, all the mannerisms.
And This time, though, directed also at the moderator. That's the worst part. Is like even in 2016, we got it at like crooked Hillary over here. But the moderator asked you whether or not you think human beings are increasing climate change. And then you give an answer and he says, that's not an answer to the question I asked you. Do you think that humans are increasing climate change? And you're like, I mean, like, how are you giving the guy answer, asking you questions that face? That's not a... I
mean, the problem too is that Trump, like, you know, like when he's answering the question about climate change, this is believe me, we're not going to get to literally everything they said because there is just, it would take an 8-part documentary series to break down everything that just happened here. But like, it's amazing to me that I'm watching him talk about like climate change, and then he's just like, yeah, I guess a part of it's just, you know, like fossil fuels and stuff like that. Like he's like, you know, a small smidge of it. So it's like, well, why are you doing something? Like,
well, and
you're admitting to part of the problem is you don't want to like acknowledge the setup. Yeah. So like, there's a lot of times where Chris Wallace would say something like, "Don't you think you have a responsibility to call the mayor of Portland and the governor of Oregon and say that they need to call in the National Guard to take care of the protests?" And he's just like, he doesn't bite into the like, well, I didn't do it because of this. He says, I'm not in office. I don't have a responsibility to do this.
Biden didn't do that. Yeah. No, and I was he asked Trump the same question, and the best, by the way, he may end up picking up some women's votes from this comment, but sir, why haven't you reached out to send a National Guard? And Trump answering with paraphrasing, they wouldn't take it even if I had called. And I'm like, that's a real like girlfriend response. Like, I would have asked you, but I knew that you would not even want me to, so I didn't even ask. So, you know,
he's so petulant. Like, the thing was, I was really concerned that Joe at some point would just lose it in the sense of just being like,
jump across the stage.
Shut up, you damn baby, or like he had a remarkable amount of control to keep from like losing it. But you know what? Honestly, I it's hard to even say how good Joe Biden or Chris Wallace even did in this debate because Trump just steamrolled everybody. Yeah. So it was whether or not, like, I don't feel like I got like as much of Biden as I would have wanted to in this thing, and I got way more Trump than I wanted to.
Well,
like,
I think though that bodes well for if there are undecideds, if there are centrists, honestly, if there are any real Republicans left. I don't know. Listen, I'm going to try to put him in this camp. I don't know how your dad watches that and then defends this and says, if anything, he says, I'm going to stay home. But how can he say, I'm going to go vote for that guy?
I mean, you know, and all the times where he just like, so we got the direct question about the taxes today. Yeah. And he's just like, I paid millions.
I paid millions in taxes, millions in income.
It's like, well, release your tax returns. It's like, no, I'm under investigation still. And like, you know, according to the New York Times article, he's still under investigation because he basically got a refund on the most taxes he ever paid in his life. Yep. And now the federal government is examining whether or not he was right to do that. Like,
and by the way, the reason he
bought into the premise of that question when Biden directly did it to him. He's just like, well, don't you think it's wrong that you took advantage of this loophole? It's like, you guys put it out there. It's like, so you did it. Like,
the other part of that, by the way, is the reason he's still under investigation is because he has waived the statute of limitations, which probably seemed like a good idea at the time, but may not seem like a good idea. There was an FBI investigator on CNN this morning who was like, listen, I would tell someone if they really wanted to avoid getting charges today, that's a great idea. But if I knew there was a lot of dirt out there, I would say take the charges today because they'll stop digging.
You don't know what else we'll find?
Yeah, they'll stop digging. And if you just waive the statute of limitations, they'll say, all right, we got this. We're going to put this to the side. Now we got to look at all of this. But if you take the charges, usually it's like, we got this. All right, let's go forward. And they just forget everything else. So who knows what else they're going to find. And apparently, according to the New York Times, there was a lot. So
what worries me the most about this whole thing is that he's just like, at some point it's going to come to, we found him. He's basically guilty. He's dead to rights. And Biden, like a Biden presidency will be like, let's not prosecute him because I don't want it to become a thing. Like, I don't want to become like the Democrat prosecuting the former Republican president. I don't want to be accused of that. It's just like, well, he did a lot of illegal shit, so perhaps we should not forgive and forget on this one. And he's like, no, I got to let it go. And everyone will just go crazy. Like,
and by the way, the Democrats will then get ousted out of office, and then the next Republican will be like, listen, I don't know if you've heard about this Benghazi situation, but we need to move forward on charges, and then there'll be charges, and it'll be Biden's in Ukraine and Clinton's in Benghazi. And because the one thing that we know is that Democrats are all about turning the other cheek just to give them another piece of skin for the Republicans to slap the next time that they get in office. So
yeah, it's unbelievable. And here's the question: if this is how the debates are going to be, is there a point in having two more of them? I mean, like, do you think that? I mean, like, do we need to seriously consider changing up how this thing happens or something like that? Do we put Trump in a soundproof box in case he gets out of line? Or
I am surprised that they didn't cut his mic. I think they did cut his mic at some point, but they also cut away on the camera, so we couldn't see him talking without hearing him. But they let him talk over Chris for a little bit, but I think at some point Chris was just like, and they cut the mic, and they also cut away to Biden, and he was like, Mr. Vice President, go ahead. Because it was weird that sometimes he seemed to just like get the legs cut out of him, and he'd be like, yeah. And I've never known Trump to just shut up like that. There's always like well, you know, I if you want to go ahead and do it that way, I don't really. And, you know, it never just stops. So two things. One, I'm going to break my precedent that has basically been in place since we started the podcast. I have requested an absentee ballot from the state of Maryland, where I am still a citizen. Because deadline is October 13th to request the ballot, and I don't want to get locked out from requesting it, so I'm going to request it. I don't know that I'm going to cast it yet. We'll see. I might sell it to someone on the street corner in exchange for some,
That's what Trump was accusing people of doing earlier.
No.
Like things I've never heard of before. Like, what's amazing is... What's amazing, like I bet you could get good $20 for a ballot, depending on the state.
Sure.
I mean, like, the problem is that, like, in like Maryland or California, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
like,
I was gonna say, what's a Maryland?
They might as well put the projection on the screen that he's won California already. Like, there's no point in actually having the election. Like, it's over and done with. I think that we might actually see that crime be committed a couple times in this election cycle, only because Trump gave people the idea. I never in my wildest dreams would I ever think about actually buying a ballot from somebody or selling it. Like, why would you? Like, at the very least, I would say, like, oh, you're going to vote for something, but you don't know who you're going to vote for at the top of the ticket. Let me tell you the people to vote for. Yeah. Like, I've told people who they should vote for before, but that's not me, like...
And
as soon as they're in the sanctity of the voting booth, I don't have any control over it.
I have as well, and usually it's down ballot stuff. I love just listening to conversations on the line and the way in, and they're like, I don't even know what judge to vote for, and I'm just like, don't vote for that one. And they're like, oh, why? I'm like, beats his wife. I don't know. It doesn't matter. As long as I can get you not to vote for the guy I don't want you to vote for on the way in. But, it's like, it's essentially the same thing. I think that is probably the limit of what we're going to see. Yes, there will be a couple of instances. But by the way, they're saying that it might be 160 million ballots cast. It'll be like the highest turnout in like the 20th century, maybe even the 19th century turnout by per capita. Eligible voters actually voting. So, but back to my point, which was that I think for me and my absentee ballot, which abides by the president's rule, requested, sent, not just sent to me. I think I'm looking at Joe and wondering if it's worth the vote. Let's just be clear. I jokingly said in 2016 everyone should vote for Trump. That was a mistake. I think I, at one point in one episode, may have said something along the lines of, what's the worst that can happen? Let me tell you, folks, a global pandemic with a television comedian in charge of the country, that's about as bad as it could get. And I'm not trying to test the universe by saying, let's give him another 4 years and see what else we can come up with. So now at this point, it's like, do I actively support another administration, or do I just abstain the way that I've abstained in the past? And I don't come out of this one feeling very good. I thought that at the end, Joe kind of looked like a confused old man and a flustered old man. And I think about him in negotiations with the Canadian Prime Minister or the French Prime Minister, or trying to think of somebody who's younger.
But even in a situation like that, I think what Biden just went through was, like a 10 rounds fight when you thought you were going to go for a spar,
that's true.
Because debates traditionally have been, I'll go for 2 minutes, you go for 2 minutes. Maybe there will be a little interruption here and there, but it's you keep in the flow. Suddenly he's having to, because I could literally see, it's not hard to read Joe's body movements here. Like, there's a lot of times where he's just like looking down and writing notes furiously because he's like, I have to remember all this ridiculous shit he just said.
Yeah.
Like, I have 2 minutes to get back on all this, so like I'm not gonna miss an opportunity to slam him on one of these things. And like a lot of time where you can just see him like, like his eyes are kind of closed, but he's like thinking. He's just trying to like gather it all in. And
I think though I identified the best case scenario here. Joe has wanted to be president for a long time. As Trump pointed out, like maybe 19 times, he's had 47 years in public service. Here's what we do. We vote for Biden. We get him in office. We give him his inauguration day with his like Hillary balloon moment of like,
yeah.
Right? Let him enjoy it. And then day 10, maybe day 15 of the 46th presidency, step down and let Kamala take over. And then we actually have somebody who's younger, ironically has a better history of race relations and police and crime and all of those things.
Which is weird coming from a prosecutor.
Yep. Very strange for me to say that, but
I think, the real problem with the Biden campaign here is that like, people are going to hold their nose and vote for him. I'm going to hold my nose and vote for him. But like the problem is that the second he takes over office, we're going to be fighting all the same fights we're currently fighting now.
Yes.
Because he's not going to be left enough for all the issues that are taking people to the streets. And I think there's a better chance at the very least if something were to happen on the scale of a George Floyd, a Breonna Taylor, these types of incidents that have recently happened during the Trump administration, which have led to humongous protests all across the country. I think there's a better chance that you might be able to actually get to some sort of reasonable outcome if Joe Biden is president. Well, I don't think you'll get everything you want.
No.
I mean, like he clearly stated, like he doesn't go in for defunding the police or any of the issues that like a lot of the left is really adamant about. But like, he's you shouldn't expect this from him either because he's
77 years old.
25 years ago, he would have been a Republican.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I mean, basically, he's a Democrat because he grew up in Delaware. That's why he's a Democrat.
I was going to say, you said 25 years ago, but honestly, if he was born in Texas, he would have been a Republican candidate and a Republican senator. He was born in Delaware. That's it.
The discernible difference between him and a Wayne Gilchrist, who is a Republican, is very, very slight. And nobody knows who I'm talking about when I say Wayne Gilchrist.
No.
But he was a Republican congressman in Maryland who was very moderate, like almost to the center moderate.
Well,
but he
Wayne
caucused with the Republicans, and Biden was Biden is basically the left version of that, a very ultra center politician who, in Delaware you're a Democrat. That's basically how it works. Much like in Maryland, you're a Democrat. Like if you want to hold elected office, it's a 99% chance you have to be a Democrat.
Yeah, and I think Wayne, you saying that I would guarantee you, if we looked at voting records historically, Joe and Wayne Gilchrist are essentially the same person. But all it really comes down to is a couple of small differences, fiscal policy. Something in the late 80s regarding fiscal policy, and you get a Republican Wayne Gilchrist and a Democrat Joe Biden. Otherwise, they're not. Wayne Gilchrist today would be one of those who left the party. He'd just be like, no, this is not my party. I am not doing this anymore. I'm not going to stand by with this. And he would just caucus independent. I
would also like to say that this debate to me, the lead up to it, and even the presentation of it and how people were reacting to it felt very much like team sports, even more than it has before. Like so I was watching football on Fox this weekend, and they did a little ad for live betting during the presidential debate. And it was like it showed like the model phone, and on it said like, like, what nickname will Trump call Biden first, and like, like stuff like that. And it's like, we're betting on this now. I can say, we're betting, what's the difference between this and like, me like putting some money on the Broncos Jets game? Like,
if that commercial doesn't end with a 1-800-YOU-NEED-HELP kind of hotline, then I don't know where we are as a country. Honestly, it really should be like. And if you reacted positively, like, what's the number you can call? There are resources out there that can help you.
Whenever I hear a gambling ad on anything, I have to hear the like 15 different phone numbers for like 1-800-HELP-YOU and all the.
And then I can just picture you on the other end of the phone, like, all right, can I parlay the Monday Night Football game and the Tuesday debate in some sort of?
Can I get a Sleepy Joe in the first 5 and 2.5 on the Jets?
But so we've been. It's about half the show. I think we were figuring about half the show was going to be the debate. Real quick before we move on, though, I want to just touch on kind of all the topics. Can you say with certainty, any better where anyone stands as far as fiscal policy? That was, I think, the first thing that they talked about was really fiscal policy and the COVID plan. Did you hear a COVID plan from Trump in this?
No, I haven't heard a plan from Trump on anything. Like, he's had months to have a COVID plan. He doesn't have a COVID plan. He's had months to come up with a way to, get us out of this dire economic situation that a lot of people are in. Yeah. And he hasn't done anything about that either. I don't put a lot of credence in his plans. Joe, on the other hand, kept, trying. Not only pointing people to check out his plan specifically, but like whenever, like Chris Wallace would like throw him be like, so why do you support the Green New Deal? And he's just like, I don't support the Green. I have a very different plan. It's not the Green New Deal. It's a completely different thing. There's some things about the Green New Deal that I like that are in this plan, but it's not a carte blanche agreement with the Green New Deal. And like, Trump clearly is just freestyling everything. Like he never is dedicated enough to honestly try and learn how he can make things better. He just thinks that any reaction he has is going to be better than a plan. And in a situation like this, it's not. It's not. And I think one of the things that worries me now, and I didn't worry about it before, but I didn't think that Trump would openly ingratiate himself to white nationalists on national TV.
Oh yeah. But that was going to be
his show up at the polls and make sure they're not doing anything fishy. Sounds like we're just going to get violent mobs like yelling at people who are lined up to vote for hours, which is not great. The Proud Boys giving like a sort of like, hey, keep it under wraps, but then when they need you, you're gonna have to come out strong.
But by the way, the worst, no, I'll tell them. What are we calling them? White supremacists, Proud Boys. Move back. But if there's needed in the future, then we'll need you to step up. I'm like, that is not what he asked you to do. What?
Disavow them, and you know that he's trying to do everything he can to cart favor with them because he just won't throw them down, right away. I mean, Biden a couple times tonight, to his credit, for his campaign, was asked a question that, like the Green New Deal one, do you support the Green New Deal? And he emphatically was just like, no, I don't. Yeah. And Trump, when it's like, do you support white nationalists? It's just like, well, a lot of people vote, so it's like, this is so easy. It's a dunk. Like, even white nationalists know that you have to say out loud, oh no, like they read into even when Trump has made any kind of statement that was anywhere close to I don't support these people at all. Like you'll go onto 8chan and you'll see people go like, what he really meant by that statement was. Yeah. Well, he totally pulled on his sleeve when he said it, which means that he's like totally in support of the cause. Or it's a special white supremacist motion.
You literally just see them say, he has to say that. Of course he has to say that.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is. And that's the thing is like, yeah, I don't feel any differently about Joe Biden than I did at the start. I know he doesn't embrace the Green New Deal. I know that his $2 trillion and AOC and Bernie's $100 trillion illogical, will not work, way too over the top Green New Deal are very different. But I also know that Trump's let's just burn a hole in the ozone layer and let the next generation deal with it, that's not going to fix anything either. So if I got to pick one, and this is the argument I always make to people, it's like, create a new center. You got to create a new center. And if Trump's over here doing craziness and AOC and Bernie are out here like, let's just bankrupt the country to accomplish maybe something, being in the middle and saying like, listen, $2 trillion, which is 2 years of defense spending, and spreading that over 10 years to make a better economy and a better environment, that's reasonable to me. And so it's not when Trump keeps trying to say like, oh, you're just a supreme leftist, or like, oh, there you lost the radical left. It's like, no, you didn't. I am the radical left, and I know who he is, and I can tell you, I don't like it. But what does you saying you lost the radical left do? Do you think that I'm going to be like, you know what, this Trump guy, he's right, I should be on his side? Absolutely.
I should vote for the guy who's right of the guy who's left.
Wait.
That's the only thing a radical leftist has to do at this point.
You're telling me
I have to go all the way around.
You're telling me nationalist socialist has the word socialist in it? How have I missed this so far? Oh my God. I've been on the wrong side of this issue the whole time. All right, well. But
what Bernie and AOC have done with the Green New Deal, though, is do what we told them to do for a long time, which is what Republicans have been doing for a long time, which is the Republicans will come in and say it's a 0 to 100 scale of whatever we're talking about here. Republicans will come in with 0.
Yes.
They'll say 0, absolutely not, 0. And then the Democrats will say to themselves, like in party by themselves, they'll be like, well, the Republicans won't accept 100, so let's just start at 50. And then the negotiation becomes between 0 and 50.
Yeah.
And then eventually it gets talked down to 25 because the Democrats don't have no spine. AOC and Bernie, for as unreasonable as their plan is, and much like a lot of Republican plans have been completely unreasonable through the years too, is at least a shot at like, hey, let's find somewhere in the middle, which will still be an advantage to the Democrats. Like, let's not give away the House before we even start playing. Let's do this. And you know what? The problem is that, you know, the Green New Deal, while the price tag is, you know, untenable and the real world benefits are unproven.
Yeah.
There is logical thought behind where they get to some of the things that they do. So to take away an item, you have to decide why people deserve to die to keep this thing.
Yep.
And, you know, you lose things in negotiations all the time. It's sort of how it works. But, like, you know, they're more likely to give up airplanes at some point along the way. Like, you know, AOC is not driving back and forth between New York and DC.
Wait.
Like,
she could take the Acela. That's an electric train. So
I mean, she could. I'm just saying, like, you know, Joe did that for a long time. But I'm saying there's you know, like they'll give up on the things that they don't want to give up at a certain point. But they're going to start with a negotiation with it.
Biden, that's the smartest move he made, by the way. Because by saying $2 trillion, if he gets elected, he can look at the Republicans and be like, I have to meet someone in the middle here. I wanted 2. They want 100. So let's start talking about 40 or 50 trillion dollars of investment here. And it doesn't even start at 0. The Republicans want 0, but he's got to say, no. I started at 2. They want 100. Let's go meet
I don't trust a potential Democratic Senate to even like.
Oh no, they'll negotiate it against themselves to the Democratic.
I'm pretty sure Dianne Feinstein is going to be calling up Susan Collins, being like, "How should I vote on this one?" I'm totally on for a loop. You've always been a kind senator to me.
Yeah. And I mean, we should. Was there anything more from the debate? I mean, realistically, like I said, it's Trump did more damage than any one thing, I think. One, looking crazy to anyone in the center. Every time he tried to point out that Joe, like, oh, you lost the radical left. Oh, you lost that. No, you didn't, because we know who we were dealing with. But when Trump says things like, I mean, maybe humans did a little bit of, are a part of this. I think there are people on the right saying, what? No. My guy didn't say that. But that can be, now that's a point. And like you said, if humans are a part of it, why aren't we doing something? If there was more we could do, why don't we do more?
Yeah, you know, it's he's not good at like picking up the walking into the fallacies of his debate and everything like that. He's just saying whatever comes to his mind, and that's it, honestly. I was listening to somebody who was talking about QAnon and like Fox News and Breitbart and the whole Republican ecosystem and some stuff like that. And sometimes you'll just turn on the station and you'll feel like you're watching a completely different world than the one that you're hearing about anywhere else. And maybe if I was watching Fox News all the time and just like all about all the Republican media all the time, a lot of what Trump said would make sense to me. But to most reasonable people who don't follow this religiously like that, they're going to look at him like he's a raving lunatic.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I don't think that benefits him in the end. Like, to get more than what he currently has, it's not going to work.
There are some people who are, dyed-in-the-wool Republicans and Fox News watchers or Breitbart readers. That's all they do. But anyone who is I watch Fox News, but I also watch NBC. I hate watch NBC sometimes. Those people, I think you've already lost. Those are people who are like, I can't defend what just happened here. Like, I'm a rational person. I can't defend any of what he's saying.
That being said, I'm going to enjoy the next week of people defending what he's saying.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. Absolutely.
Like, watching people crawl backwards to Ted Cruz being like, I thought he had the best debate performance of the year.
Oh, and Lindsey Graham, I'm sure. And speaking of Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham, and of the election, by the way, it's not just a presidency. We have a very other important race. The down ballot races are also just as important because if Trump gets his way, none of this discussion we've just had will matter because Handmaid's Tale is coming. Handmaid's Tale is on its way, Corey. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I assume you're talking about Amy Coney Barrett, our new nominee for the Supreme Court, taking over. By the way, not to get on a perfectly good merchandising opportunity, but to start painting her as the notorious, now I gotta fucking figure it out, ACB, is fucking, that just feels like rubbing it in at this point. I agree that this is just ridiculous. Like, we've basically let a lobbying firm decide who all our Supreme Court justices are going to be.
Yep.
And the Republican Party is all in with the Federalist Society, and they're just going to go with literally anybody they put on that list. And if it's good enough for them, then it's good enough for the senators. Like, these aren't people who are elected who put together this list. It's just random Republican think tank members and people who have a lot of money to sway the Federalist Society whims. And I think what alarms me about Coney Barrett is that, like, usually you have to do something. Like, usually you have to be a lawyer for a long time and, like, fighting some really big cases.
Yep.
Or you have to be, like,
like Ruth Bader Ginsburg? Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, or you have to be a judge for a long time. Like, she's served a distinguished career for 20 years on the highest court in California or whatever. The Supreme Court justices always came with a certain amount of gravitas. And even if it was a young person, even if it was like a Merrick Garland, he had, 30 years on the bench or something. Like he was 58 and he had 30 years on the bench. Like he was doing great for
also
himself.
Beloved by both parties and like unanimously, as I was reminded by our intro video, unanimously put forward or voted on in every lower bench that they bumped him up to. And Orrin Hatch, the leader of the Republican senators, said, like, if he doesn't put him up, I don't know what he's doing. Like, that's the one guy you're going to get through here without a problem, except for Mitch McConnell. That's the problem.
Merrick Garland is the exact. So another great moment during the debate was when Trump was just like, "Why'd you leave so many judge shits open?"
Motherfucker!
they're saying it was like a complete sham that you didn't fill all these judges. It's just like, I'm so surprised Biden was just like, you should talk to fucking Mitch McConnell about the judges that he took away from us.
Yeah. Everything was nominated, bro.
As soon as they won the Senate, we couldn't get a single fucking judge through. Even the most, and Garland is like as moderate as milquetoast, and Amy Coney Barrett was raised in a lab to be the next Scalia.
Yes, by Scalia,
like Dolly the sheep of Scalia. Yeah.
Intern for him, and then what's the other word? Not intern, but clerked for him.
Clerked.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I saw a meme where it was her in the Handmaid's Tale outfit, and I was like, okay, so I mean, I get it. You're she's dang it, what was I gonna say? Oh, she's very conservative, and she's like anti-choice and, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then I found out like she's actually in a conservative group that is like men. It's all run by men, and they pool their money together. And if anybody has anything, they give out to them. I was like, oh no, she's in The Handmaid's Tale.
The women in that group are literally called handmaids.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird.
But I don't know. This whole thing is just it's gonna pass. That's the problem. She's gonna get in.
Yep.
So the question is, what do you do about it? Because I mean, like, you know, there's all kinds of stupid tactics that are being discussed. Like, are the Democrats just going to abstain from the entire process? And it's just like, well, don't do that. Like,
yeah, but
Kamala's on judicial. I don't understand why you're not allowing this to just be a free debate. A free, unencumbered debate performance by Kamala Harris, who is really good at getting across her point from, like, when she's questioning somebody in the Senate. Like, she's very good at it. She's amongst the best. I don't understand why you don't give her an opportunity to just go ham shit all over Amy Coney Barrett. Like,
and I'm down for that on judiciary, but I think if it comes up for a vote in the Senate, that no Democrats show up. Just don't come. And there's no quorum, and you can't take a vote. So,
yeah.
But what do we? Then it leaves everybody else.
But you can get a quorum with like 40, right?
No, I don't think so.
Or 50?
No, I think.
I mean, they got 50, so.
No, you have to have a majority. No, you have to have more than a majority. I think you have to have a supermajority present to form a quorum, and then majority rules of that quorum. But, I mean, again, Dianne Feinstein would just be like, oh, well, it would be a dereliction of duty if I didn't show up and voice my
Is this where I vote for the Republican?
Which is, by the way, why down-ballot votes are important. Because we should be voting out people like Dianne Feinstein. Also, Mitch McConnell. And Chuck Schumer, for that matter. But, I mean, all of them, honestly. Pelosi.
I did enjoy Lindsey Graham on Fox News going like, I'm getting killed financially. Because it's like, yeah, why? Wonder why.
Hypocrites kind of do. I don't know what to tell you.
There's video on the internet of you saying like, you should use my words against me. Of course. Why would?
But there's going to be more to come for Amy Coney Barrett. I just the problem is I really want to
stay tuned over the next 2 weeks while we shove this nomination through.
I really wanted to talk about it, but I'm just like, you know what? It's inevitable. It's not like it's a discussion, and literally they have jammed 4 months of hearings into 2 weeks. And the final vote is going to be the Thursday after they open discussions next Monday.
Yeah.
It's appalling. But nonetheless, we'll talk about it next week. I think the more important thing is that Handmaid's Tale may come not just because of Amy Coney Barrett, but because Trump may just not leave the White House. He may just be like, nope. And the ability, not to go back to the debate, but the ability to talk out of both sides of your mouth is a politician. That's a thing that politicians do. Mm-hmm. But for him to say, if the results come out on election day and I've won, why would I not announce that I've won? But then essentially to say, like, if I'm losing on election day, we'll run this thing out as long as we have to run it out to whatever court I have to take it to. And I'm just like, wait. So if you're winning, then you won. But if you're not winning, then run it out. And also, you said maybe you wouldn't leave or honor the results once certified. And he did not say that, no, I won't do that. So,
yeah, it's amazing how many people I saw like just lose their shit the second that he said it, because so much of just the reasonable decorum of our society is based off of the peaceful transition of power.
Yeah.
It is. It's not saying that if there's a contentious election like Bush v. Gore, that you're not allowed to continue fighting that fight and hope that you win the presidency, because that one, literally came down to a percentage of votes in Florida, and that was going to decide the election.
I mean, well, I know, because they stopped the voting elsewhere. Yes.
Right, but I'm saying, like, realistically saying it was less than a 1% difference in the vote when they were going through it. And if for whatever reason this election is like that, then it is going to go to the courts. It's going to have its next life in that regard. But there's no point in saying that if it is decided that I have lost, I won't give up the presidency.
Yeah.
I mean, like, honestly, this is not making me want to vote less. It's making me want to vote more. And it's making me want to tell other people to vote more. Because maybe if Joe Biden has such a commanding lead on election night just from the people who showed up, like before the mail-in votes are counted, then perhaps this dies down a little bit. I mean, and, you know, all the other Republicans in the government are doing what they have to do. You know, McConnell's saying, like, you know, like, oh, he'll definitely leave. Don't worry. Like,
by the way, I think he
will. I
will.
Trust anything he says, but
I think he will, and I don't think that Joe Biden will be the 46th president of the United States. I think he will be the 47th president of the United States. Because Donald Trump talking about all his lame duck stuff he wants to pass, if I were him and I lost, my first thought would be like, all right, so listen, Mike, January 1st, I'm stepping down. January 2nd, I'd really like to get that presidential pardon. How can we work that out? All crimes, lifetime pardon for everything that happened before this moment. Can we do that? And then just step down. Give Mike Pence his, 20 days of presidency. He can try to turn it into Handmaid's Tale real quick.
Wouldn't that would a pardon would only be for federal crimes, though, right? You can't do anything about state crimes, hypothetical state crimes. So I mean, like, even the idea that you would pardon him would get you away from a degree of like the treasons and stuff like that he could potentially be charged with.
Tax evasion.
But you could get charged with New York tax evasion.
True, but
he took money back from New York too. So I mean, if he's found guilty of what they're investigating him for right now, then that also includes back taxes to New York.
But you could, as part of the pardon, though, you can quash the investigatory files. So if the FBI has been, or the IRS has been the one investigating, you can stop them from giving the file to New York and make them basically start over with an investigation. And then, I mean, the dude's 74 and he eats cheeseburgers from McDonald's every day. Like, you might just outlast that investigation.
If you can get a 2 to 5 year sentence, it might be enough.
I was gonna say, or if you can get a 2 to 5 year reprieve, that might be enough. If New York's like, we got to start from the jump again, and like, all right, we can have this wrapped up in 3 years.
New York probably has charges waiting for him on election fraud, which they can do on a state level because he like paid Stormy Daniels and shit like that. So we'll see. I would think that we're more likely to get President Pelosi for a couple days while they figure it out in court than I would be that we're going to get a President Pence for any amount of time. Like,
and I was going to say to that also
because by the way, Republicans, nightmare scenario. If this does take months, Trump isn't president on January 20th when the new term begins. If there is a concern about what's going on. Pelosi takes over, assuming she wins her.
And assuming she gets revoted as Speaker of the House by the Democrats who come in on the 3rd. So, I mean, AOC, if she's made Speaker, could be president. And if you want them to wrap up election voting, that's what you do. You make AOC the Speaker and just be like, hey, boys, how are we doing on that election voting? Trump's like, I concede. I know, I get it. Now, Mitch,
no, but she couldn't. She couldn't, though, because she couldn't be president. She wouldn't be able to assume presidency under the.
No, she'll. I thought she turns after the election, but before.
No, she's like 32 or 33 right now, so she still has a couple years before. I think it's before the next election, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. By the way,
I think she turns 35 like before November 2024.
Yes. And I was going to say, a peaceful transfer of power doesn't have to be super nice. There have been presidents who like boycotted the next president's inauguration. Yeah. And I have friends who are parents who will like, have to fight and wrangle and spank their kid and then put him in bed and be like, oh, no, he just went down for a nap. And like totally peaceful. If we have to drag him out kicking and screaming and spanking on the way out, it doesn't matter. That's still a peaceful transfer of power.
I mean, that's literally what will happen too, by the way, just in case you're curious. If he decides to just like chain himself to the Resolute desk, then the Secret Service will just take him out. Like,
I would really like to see some Marine who he has not remembered his name for 4 consecutive years and just be like,
Jerry, why are you doing this to me? My name's Jerome.
For the last time. It's been 4 years, Mr. President. And
I don't like Jerry. It's not my name.
Just fireman throw him over his shoulder, carry him out to Marine 2. So We'll see how all that goes.
That'll be enjoyable CNN coverage when you see him like slamming on the back of the circuit. Let me go.
Kicking his feet in the air. Melania following after, just like, oh God, Donald, please.
She's wearing the I'm asking for a divorce dress or
or just a T-shirt that says "Don't worry, I'm getting divorced." Something like that. And that's all
I
assuming.
left my husband in the White House.
That's assuming Melania is still there on the last day. Because if he gets voted out, I'm not for sure she doesn't just like head back to New York on November 5th and just, all right, this chapter's over. So I know.
Listen, I need to get squatters' rights at Trump Tower for a little bit.
Yeah.
I need to be there for a couple weeks for it to take in. So,
so from a very funny topic to a not funny topic, because I want to make sure we get to this week.
Yes.
Luckily, the grand jury has come to a decision in the Breonna Taylor case. We've been waiting for nearly 200 days. I think 170 days altogether.
Sounds about right. Earlier in March.
Yep. So 170 plus days we've been waiting, and the grand jury has come down, and charges have been filed. They've been brought, so she finally has justice. This is excellent news, Corey. Why are you shaking your head no? I don't understand.
So one officer got charged with two counts of wanton disregard.
Well, listen,
which he got for
if you fire into an apartment where a woman is sleeping, clearly you're going to get a wanton disregard. That's a minimum that you would get. So
yeah, it's not one of the ones who fired inside of the apartment. It's the guy who literally went outside and started going Rambo on the side of the house.
Okay,
on the side of the apartment.
But he put Breonna's
shooting
life
into windows with the blinds closed and stuff like that. So
he put Breonna's life at risk, and she ended up dying. So at least there's some form of justice for her.
I don't see it.
Oh wait, so maybe I'm making a misconnection here. You're telling me that charging the guy who missed her and then endangered the lives of other people in the apartment building, that's not justice for Breonna? I don't understand. Because
as the meme goes, we only charged the guy who hit the wall. Like the only charges were for the shots that missed.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And by the way, again, realistically, this is not about him endangering Breonna. It's he endangered other people in the apartment complex, and therefore we have to charge him. So,
I mean, so much of the problem with the Breonna Taylor case was that there were pieces of information that nobody would reasonably be able to say without having done some what do you call it? Like some investigation on the bullets.
Forensic investigation.
Yeah, doing a forensic investigation as to who.
I've been watching a lot of forensic files. I can totally get away with murder right now, by the way. I'm completely able to do that, I think.
You know now, you know all the secrets.
I know enough. Basically, they end every episode with, he thought he was smarter than the police, but here's where he screwed up. And I'm just in there like, okay.
Making a big note of all the times they screwed up.
Got a long list of how people thought they were smarter than police and weren't. And now, gotcha.
No, but so, what was I just saying? Oh, the forensics was going to decide a lot because a lot of what you're actually trying to determine was what bullet killed Breonna Taylor. Who shot the bullet that killed Breonna Taylor?
Or bullets.
And we know that or bullets. And we know who shot the bullet that killed her. Mm-hmm. But that person was not charged.
Nope.
And the old line is that as a prosecutor, you can if you bring in a ham sandwich to a grand jury, you can get charges on the ham sandwich.
Yep.
And that did not happen in this case. It seems like David Cameron decided to go in, or Daniel Cameron. I keep fucking that up. I don't remember. Anyway, Kentucky Attorney General. He went in there, and it doesn't matter. We're not going to be talking about it for long.
No.
He went in there and clearly just was trying to get the two wanton disregard because that's all he got.
I don't think he even wanted to get those, but I think. I mean, I told you on the call earlier today. I think he literally was just like, I don't see a spin on this one, boys. I don't know what you walked outside and fired through a window blindly into an apartment. Somebody's going to have to take one.
You knew that guy was going to get the charges because he was fired before anything. So like, if you're so bad at your job that you got fired in a situation like this, you know you're about to get charges.
No, wait. That's not true because I mean, if I do many things to screw up anything, cost people money, I get fired. Pizza delivery guy dumps a pizza in front of a house like a UPS driver, just like tosses it on, he gets fired. The difference is cops don't get fired for anything. So if a cop gets fired, now you have to be like, whoa, wait, what did he do? What'd he do?
Did he loudly proclaim, I am murdering someone because I feel like it? It's like, dude, you can't do that.
He was screaming racial epithets.
You need to say, I was fearing for my life as you were killing the person. That's how it works. That's the get out of jail free card.
Yeah, I saw in Time Hop in the last couple of days was a post from like 7 years ago that it was like police training, and it was 4 squares, and the first one's like, draw, fire, I was afraid for my life. Like that was the, I'm like, yeah, sad. But yes, the old adage is a prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich because essentially it is a court case where there is no judge to tell you don't do that, and there's no defense attorney to object to anything that you do. So you present all the evidence that you want, and you can show anything that you want. I mean, I could literally... so another prosecutor posted when COVID first happened, he was like, I walked into a bank wearing my mask and realized that I was digging around in my pocket for the deposit slip. And I thought to myself, I've indicted men on less evidence than this. And I was like, 2 thoughts. 1, that's a problem if you're indicting people on that kind of evidence. But also, it doesn't take much because then you have to go to court and flesh it out, and you have to present real evidence that this person robbed a bank, for instance. But that's the thing. It's not supposed to be the time in which the prosecutor tries his evidence. It's you dump everything. You could literally have somebody, and there's no rules about hearsay. Corey could come in there and say, well, I read on somebody's blog who lives in Kentucky that they heard one of the friends of the cop said this, and that's evidence for a grand jury, and it's just weighed out by the grand jury. Like, how much do we trust this guy who lives nowhere near the situation and read it on a blog or whatever? But
I mean, like, clearly that the grand jury was being swayed by very little because there's 12 people essentially 18. Who are witnesses. 18, 18 people. One person on the 3rd time around said they heard someone say police. And everyone else said, I never heard police said once.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the grand jury. Grand juries have 18 people, not 12. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The 12 witnesses at the scene or something like that.
Yeah.
They none of them said they heard the police announce themselves. And one person on the third interview said they heard it. And that was enough to clear the 2 cops who weren't shooting blindly into the side of the building.
Yeah.
The problem here is that we all knew, I think even people who were asking for justice for Breonna Taylor knew that no justice was going to come.
Yeah.
Because there's even if there were charges brought, which would have been a nice change of pace in the situation, there was going to be no justice at the end of the day. And it's not because this case doesn't deserve it, or that Breonna doesn't deserve it, or that there aren't many problems with what has happened so far. It's that the system is not built to allow her to have justice in this situation because it is always going to defer to the cop, no matter what. They will find any excuse in which to free a cop of charges like this. And until the system changes, it's not going to protect her. And I mean, there's issues with the police who were involved in the shooting, staying on the scene, staying in the crime scene, talking to people. There's now body cam footage that is being released after the fact, like after we've already had the grand jury, like the public has finally seen body cam footage. One of the officers who was involved actually had a body cam on. They said nobody had a body cam on when the actual search warrant was being executed.
Yep.
The judge, amongst all the people, she will lose her job, I'm sure, at some point, but
probably not.
She rubber stamped a bunch of warrants all at the same time, and apparently did it all within 10 minutes, which is not a reasonable amount of time to go through a warrant. because they are quite lengthy.
I did a little bit of research into that, so I want to clarify that. So I don't think the judge will lose her job because it's real hard to lose a judgeship unless it's elected, and then the people of Kentucky will have a say in it. But they've elected Mitch McConnell many times over, so I have no faith in that. But yeah, so first, they will never release a grand jury transcript, but I wish that they would. I wish that we could see what his arguments were that got no charges. Because I guarantee you, all we're going to hear is him pressing for these wanton charges. Just, that's it. Yeah. Like, somebody's got to fall on the... Listen, we need to get justice for her. This is him arguing to the grand jury. We need to get justice for Breonna. This is how we do it. We're going to charge the guy who didn't hit her and who endangered everyone else with something. And everybody else will just let go. And they've learned their lesson, probably. But as far as the warrants. So, this judge issued... I have the note. What is it? So she issued 10 no-knock warrants in 12 minutes. No, five no-knock warrants in 12 minutes. So the time that is listed on it is the time of signing, not necessarily the time of receiving. The affidavits are very lengthy, but every warrant that she signed was about the same case. And the likelihood is that the same officer was the affiant in every single case. And there are some standard questions that judges ask, and one of those questions can be, like, you're the affiant in all these cases, or all these warrant requests. Do you swear under God that all the things you're attesting to hold themselves true for all of these warrants? So you can kind of do all of them at one time. Yeah. The interesting question, and so I found the opinion piece that was like, that's way too fast to do warrants. I found another opinion piece. It's like, no, that's completely reasonable. But there was a comment at the bottom of that one that really got to me, which is, what time did he step in the courtroom? That's the important time. The 12 minutes to sign is totally normal because there's a lot of places to sign. But what time did he step in? Did he step in 10 minutes before she started signing and then signed all of them in 12 minutes? Or did he step in 90 minutes before and then 90 minutes later she started signing and it took 12 minutes to sign everything? The reality is, having been in this somewhat before, it's probably the latter. That he walked in, she asked 5 or 6 of the same questions, one of which is, the facts that you're swearing to attest to all of these? And he said yes. The one person who may get fired is actually that cop. Because one of the things he attested to was that both of the subjects they were looking for were likely to be found at any of those places, of the 5 places. And it turns out he knew or should have known they arrested one of the guys the night before he went to go get the no-knock warrants. So one of those guys was not even on the street anymore. He had been arrested. The more concerning thing for all of us is that the evidence that they had apparently in these warrants was real slim. And they hit the wrong...
Very circumspect, too.
Yeah, they hit the wrong apartment. That's number one. And why, like, you're just let go because you're like, wait. Oh, this is 9. We're looking for 6. Cross the hall, boys. And then, like, let's kick in another door. But, like, that should also be a question. Why are you okay just because you're like, oh, wrong apartment. We killed somebody. But, I mean, we had a warrant. Yeah, but not for this place. Yeah, but we have a warrant, though. Yeah, for that apartment. Did you kill anybody over there? No? Okay. So now we got a problem because you killed somebody in here. This is problematic. But more that basically they said these 2 people, one of whom's already in jail, and he knew that or should have known it. One of these 2 people is going to be found at one of these 5 places. They executed 2 of the warrants, didn't find anybody, and then went to go to the 3rd place and then decided to skip it. Why? Don't know why. But then they execute a no-knock warrant at another place that one of the 11 or 12 witnesses said they heard them say police. The likelihood is what they did is what you see a lot, where the guy swings the baton back, and as it's hitting the door, you hear somebody be like, police. It's like, police! And like as the door is coming in. And from the outside, they said police, but if you're inside sleeping, you don't hear police. You hear as the door comes in, and then it's like, oh, somebody's kicking my door in. It's just sloppy police work all over. And the problem is it'll continue to be sloppy police work because we don't hold anyone accountable. What does the guy who testified under oath to something dishonest that he knew or should have known was wrong got an address wrong, and got a woman killed. What negative consequences did he have from this? He was put in admin leave, paid vacation.
Yeah.
That's it.
The one thing that just, number one, no knock warrants for people who like are, you know, into criminal justice have been saying for a long time, there's really no need for this.
Yes.
I mean, like, most reasonable people, when you're going to arrest them, will have to leave their house to like go to McDonald's at some point, and you can easily arrest them on the sidewalk without incident if you're worried that, like, number one, the act of like knocking down the door and storming into the house is dangerous enough as it is.
Yes.
So if you're talking about officer danger, that's already ratcheting up the danger. So you should only be doing this in situations where it is incredibly, you know, if you're trying to get like Tony Montana, like you're breaking down the door, that makes sense.
But wait, Scarface shows us how dangerous that is. How many people did Scarface kill on that no knock?
But the amazing thing is you just, you know, like how you the thought process for a lot of this is that you're going to flush drugs down the toilet if you hear the police announce themselves before they like kick the door in. And it's just like, that's a crime too, and that's easily provable. It's like easy to see cocaine on the lid of the toilet seat.
Also, if they have enough that they could flush it in the time it takes you to get through the door when you knock a couple times and they don't answer, and you hear like scribbling around inside the apartment, they probably didn't have enough for you to be knocking down the door in the first place.
Honestly, the number of no-knock warrants that should be executed as opposed to the ones that are probably less than 1%.
Oh, no, yeah.
Because most of the time it's people are like, oh, we got to arrest this guy and we got to make a scene about it, you know? Like,
and that's
for instance, Roger Stone was a no-knock warrant. I'm not saying that, you know, Roger Stone doesn't deserve to be arrested, but perhaps you just call Roger Stone's lawyer and say, hey, deliver him at noon tomorrow to the courthouse.
No, take that door down. That's a door I agree with taking down. But I think that the real thing when it comes down to is if you don't have no knocks, how many times do you use your SWAT team a year, Corey?
I can't imagine in a city like Louisville I would be using it that often.
Yep.
Like,
but they use them for no knock warrants. So if you want to justify the expense that you're spending on your SWAT team to have fancy guns and fancy bulletproof vests and fancy cars, you got to just start knocking down doors. And
I mean, if there's no images of these people in their military assault gear, then it doesn't make any sense to not have the money, you know? Like,
yeah, that's the other thing too is so many times they will no knock in a door and like listen, Baltimore. They actually call them knockers, but it's not because of, right? They call them knockers in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like what they'll do is they'll go in and arrest people and they get out because they know that the neighborhood will like get rowdy otherwise.
Yeah.
But what a SWAT team does is they knock down the door, they surprise you, and then they stay inside for 45 minutes waiting for the media to show up to walk you out. That's what they did with Aaron Hernandez. They like rush inside, all guns up, and then they held him inside for 25 minutes, waited for the cameras to get set up outside, and then walk him out. So
real quick here, we have comments building up here.
Oh, Mag. So, okay, sorry, I didn't have Discord open.
I'll read you some here. Cops are kind of like war buddies. They deal with them in house. I think that's what, assuming the cops are dealt with in house.
Yeah, if they were ever dealt with.
Which, you know, honestly, they're not. I mean, some police department maybe somewhere deals with them in house, but like I'm from Baltimore, where the gun trace task force was allowed to run ram shot over everything forever, and they wouldn't have gotten caught if it wasn't for the feds.
Corey, it's not like you've done any research in that. How can you speak to that?
They're trained to protect themselves so that they can serve. Yeah, that they get that. They want to stay on the job. Cognitive blank. I don't know. You could call police to tell someone to shoot you. I don't know. If I called the police, I imagine I get shot because the police showed up.
Yes, yeah. Or wait,
Corey. To call police like that in the first place.
To be honest, if someone calls the police and says you might shoot yourself, they'll also come and shoot you. So there's also that bit of it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the problem is that how often do they get new equipment? A lot of police departments all across the country got a huge wave of military-grade equipment at the end of the Obama administration. I remember
Yes.
that one because I specifically noticed a couple counties that all of a sudden had tanks that didn't have them before.
Yeah,
So
the answer to that
you're
is every single
driving
year.
through Parkville, and there's a tank all of a sudden.
Yeah,
It-
that program, by the way, has continued. Obama said he would end it. He didn't end it. It continued. It's still active now. And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll say, oh, this gun no longer works for what we need, so we're going to mark it as sellable. They sell it to the cop who uses it on the job for $40 and then requisition money for a new gun for him for work. So he gets to take his work gun home and get a new work gun. And the same for bulletproof vests and a lot of stuff. So,
well, and I mean, anytime anytime a big situation happens, it's always a big call from the FOP or whatever union you have in your city to get fresh new gear for all the people. Like, they were, when Freddie Gray happened, I remember the police union going like, you're basically sending them out there with sticks and milk cartons to like fight the mobs. And it's just like, they were wearing bulletproof vests and face shields and everything like that. But, they got a lot of money for new equipment at that point. I mean,
wait, I
found some room in the budget there.
I want to jump to the bottom here because we have some new comments coming in. Retired military equipment. Yeah, no, not retired military equipment. Actual military equipment. It was a bill that
It's
was
retired
passed.
because the people who make military equipment want to sell more military equipment.
There you go. Yeah. It's like, hey, we'd like
why
you to
do we
buy-
have 10,000 tanks? It's like, oh, well, we'll give 8,000 of them to police departments to buy 8,000 new ones.
Well, yeah, no, it's literally that. They say we have to buy 40,000 M4s every quarter. So we need to find a reason to buy 40,000 M4s every quarter. That means selling or giving to local police departments as a loan that they don't have to repay weapons so that we can justify buying more of them. And you can call that retired military equipment if you want, and you could call it conserving funds, even though neither one of those things is true.
Yeah.
They don't sell it. It's loaned out as equipment that never has to be repaid or returned. And sometimes they will pay a small amount as a deposit, but my small town where I am from in Maryland got a MRAP, which is a mine-resistant anti-personnel vehicle. And why do they need that in a town of 5,000? They don't. But the government said, hey, if you give us $1,500, we'll give you a $140,000 vehicle that you can run the wheels off of, and when it breaks down, call us and we'll take it back. That's the loan.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All I can think of is me as a normal everyday citizen. Like, if I wanted to, say I moved to Arizona and I wanted to get a driver's license, I don't just show up and say, hey, I was a licensed driver elsewhere, give me my new driver's license. Yeah. I have to pass a test. I have to fill out a form. I have to do all this shit. Like, if I want to be able to build a shed on my property, I have to call the Department of Building Safety. I have to send somebody out there. They're going to tell me my plans aren't good enough. I'll be like, I bought these plans. You've approved these plans before. And it's like, no, we don't approve those plans anymore. Then you got to buy new plans, and then you got to do the whole dance again. There's 1,000 opportunities where everyday American citizens get jammed up by the government because they're trying to. You just get lost in the bureaucracy of it all. But police don't have the. I'm going to sit down here with you for 45 minutes and discuss every point of this no-knock warrant that you're trying to execute.
And
like,
I
don't trust the judge. The judges who are signing these warrants aren't just. There's not just like one judge who signs all the warrants. It's whatever judge you have the availability to get to when you go there.
But,
so,
wait. But they choose.
And you can
they
know
wait.
when.
Yes, they wait and they go for a certain judge.
Thursday at 2 is Old Man Stevenson, who will literally sign anything. So you wait for Old Man Stevenson to show up, and then you get him to sign it. Like,
we're getting some more comments.
I don't have the same luxury of going like, oh, well, Cindy works at the DMV on Friday. So if I go on Friday and just happen to get A3 when they call it and she has A3, then I'm going to sail through this driver's license.
Yeah.
Because I know Cindy's going to look out for me.
We're getting more comments, and I want to address what this person is talking about. And this is Monkey Man was DL or D123. So thank you for checking out the show. We appreciate you viewing. I mean, most of your arguments are completely wrong, but thank you for watching the show anyway. It's conserving funds. This is the definition, Corey, of conserving funds. Conserving funds, as in that episode of The Office. He's not saying that. I'm saying that. They spend as much of their budget as they can to prevent their funds from being taken down the next year, which is arguably great, except for the United States spends more than the next 12 countries combined on military, 10 of which, used to be 11, 10 of which are allies. So if you took the amount of money we spend and we made one big pile, and then we took the next 12 countries and piled up their money together next to it, ours would still be bigger. So maybe it's time to bring those budgets down. And if it takes not putting an MRAP in a town of 5,000 people, which, by the way, the first time that they used that MRAP, really funny, they had a standoff with an empty house for 18 hours. And I loved that. It was just like a guy slowly pulling up in an MRAP to a house and then like pushing the door in with the battering ram, like boom. And then they go inside and there's nobody inside. So that's really great use of military equipment. But yeah, they get to loan. Here more comments for the fancy vehicle they weren't going to use. Yeah, let's maybe stop buying fancy vehicles because people find reasons to use them. If you put them in the hands of your high school bully who's now a cop, like a lieutenant, captain in the local police force, he's going to find a reason to use it because that's what those guys do. Or
they find a reason to use the sticks and guns they have. Yeah. Like, why am I giving them more things to use?
I mean that, or they're going to, run for president and kill us all during a pandemic, one or the other. You're complaining about bureaucracy and you're talking about creating even more. I don't know how that is possible. I'm talking about keeping the same amount of bureaucracy. Take the money from the Defense Department and give it to literally everyone else. I would say NASA.
Oh, I think he was talking about me when I was complaining about like driver's licenses and sheds and stuff like that. Like, I want the cops to have to go wait at the DMV to get their warrant. And yes, I did. Yeah. Like, excuse me for wanting police to have to actually go to a judge, explain thoroughly why they need the warrant, why they need it to be a no-knock warrant, and like why they couldn't do this any other way.
Yes.
If the judge feels satisfied after a strenuous conversation as to why there is no way they could do this any other way than the way that they have chosen, then they can sign off on it and, we'll figure it out from there. But the number of no-knock warrants should go down 99% because most of them are completely unnecessary. And this isn't just me, some random guy saying this. This is criminal defense attorneys saying this. This is people in state's attorneys' offices all over the country. This is police and police unions saying this as well. The no-knock warrant is just a calamity that can end up in any sort of way. And it can end up in a situation like this, where two innocent people were inside their apartment. They did or did not hear them call out police. Like, it's possible that the police announced themselves, and they didn't hear it, and they knocked down the door. I'm saying it's possible.
Sure.
But that doesn't change the fact that if they didn't hear it inside, that doesn't, they didn't announce it well enough for them to know inside what was going on. And you have there's castle walls that defend your personal property and your home if somebody's breaking in.
Yeah.
And where the fuck's the NRA on this one?
Yes. Where is the NRA? And for the gentleman or lady who is watching right now, this is episode, I still don't know the number, but 338. Welcome to the conversation in 338. As far as your comments of top government folks don't understand how that money will be used, so they just throw money at folks they would think would be competent. Yes. And for the last 338 episodes, 338 episodes, whatever it is, we have been saying, hey, Obama sucks and everybody about his administration sucks. And then we said, hey, Trump sucks and everybody about his administration sucks. And guaranteed, whether it is more Trump or it's Joe Biden or Jill Stein runs again somehow and gets elected, or you vote for the best candidate for president, robcheekforpresident.com, cheekforamerica.com, I will come on this podcast and be like, that guy is a jerk. And I'll be doing it from the West Wing. I'll be like, I don't know how this guy could be any more incompetent. He's a terrible leader and he should be impeached. And then I'll go question why people on podcasts are talking about impeaching me. But that's just, yes, we complain about the government and how they spend money all of the time, and that is universal. But to your point, Corey, one of the things you'll find, and one of the statistics that is absolutely true, is that some court systems have started using a hopper system where you can't just wait for old man Stevens to be on the bench. Every warrant request comes in and goes into an electronic hopper, and then it gets assigned. And they say, listen, if you want it tonight, you should have put it in yesterday. Because we have a 24-hour hopper. It'll spit out into some judge's review. And then whatever judge gets it, gets it. And you'll find in those districts, no-knock warrants are almost non-existent. And all warrants, the requests go way down. Because they stop requesting bullshit warrants that they know they won't get. Because they can't choose the judge to go get it from.
Yeah. Well, I think we've done all that we can do today. I'm fairly sure that if anyone has any other questions, there's one place they can go for it.
Oh, where's that?
OTheAnthem.com. Corey at OTheAnthem.com. OTheAnthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595.
And of note, I will say to anyone watching, especially you watching on YouTube, give that number a call, leave a voicemail, and I promise you, we won't edit it out of context, but we might edit it for time. Just think about how long of a message you're leaving. We played a 2-minute and 30-second message from Jim. Corey, can we say that if this person wants to leave a 2-minute and 30-second or less message, we will play it and hear their argument out on the next episode?
Yes, that is reasonable, yes.
If it okay, I am going to say I will fight for it to play no matter what, because I say a lot of unreasonable things. So 443-219-7595. You can text that number, and we get the text at that number. You can leave a voicemail there, and we will play it on the show. It can't be any worse than I want to fill a bottle with COVID infected water and spray people in the face, Corey. And that's pretty unreasonable, and I said that. How many times have I called for guillotines in the street, Corey? You're going to be talking about reasonable. Anyway, go ahead.
My website.
I just love my setups. I always set it up great for you.
You always leave it right for, like, oh man, I can't wait for the next part. CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, at LegendCV5 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for now. And just trying to write right now. I'm focusing hard on my writing at the moment, but as things come, I will put them up on those various platforms. So keep an eye out.
All right. And of course, you can find more of me at Robert N. Cheek on your social network. I welcome all comers. I have waded back into the sewage-filled nonsense that is Facebook. You can find me everywhere at Robert N. Cheek. Facebook, Twitter. Oh, I'll take you on a Twitter there too. Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, VSCO, Tumblr, no matter where it is. Parlay. Is it Parlay? I always say it wrong. Parlor. God damn it. Every time I get it wrong. Parlor. At Robert
like a Wire episode with you. I'd like to parlay.
I was thinking Pirates of the Caribbean. But anyway, everywhere, Robert N. Cheek. Make sure you check out robertncheek.com, where you can find links to everything that I'm doing, including stuff on my own YouTube channel, youtube.com/RobCheek. You can find the Everyman Movie Review there. I am focusing on my writing, but also producing 2 episodes per week. Continuing. And on top of that, of course, you can find the daily podcast I produce of cool, interesting, and random things. That's Rob Explains. It's available at anchor.fm/Rob Explains, and everywhere fine pods are casted, just like this one. I'm going to start doing summary videos for that as well, so you can check into YouTube and actually just get the whole week's videos all together. So make sure you're not missing out on that. My latest episode, Potbelly Hill, changes the way we understand history. It's about Göbekli Tepe, which is the oldest known human settlement ever in the world. 12,000 years old, Corey. And I'm going to follow it up with an episode, which I still have to record because I've finally hit the end of my recorded episodes. So I get to leave here and record 14 podcast episodes. Yeah. But with human footprints were discovered in Saudi Arabia that are 120,000 years old.
Wow.
Just redefining the way that we are in history. It's almost like those footsteps 120,000 years ago. Göbekli Tepe, 12,000 years ago. The Anthem podcast, 2020. Everybody, we're just changing the way humanity understands itself. That's what I love about what we do.
Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's
I'm just going to talk over you. It doesn't matter. Can't get a word in edgewise. I'm just going to keep going.
But as always, you're listening to the The Anthem podcast.
Free Jimmy.
Part of the The Anthem Digital Network. For Corey,
I'm going to interrupt because I have important things to say. People want more of me.
Have a great week, everybody.
Now it's my time and I don't know what to say.
Hey, I just muted out Corey. Yeah, I forgot. This is the best part about being remote is I can mute Corey out. Nobody can even hear him. It's just me. Oh, this is how it should always be. Have a great week, guys.